Hello everyone and welcome to week 5. This week we'll be looking at conducting qualitative interviews and reading the Miriam and Tisdale chapter. You may be familiar with the name Sharon Miriam. She's one of the authors of the book Learning in Adulthood. If not, I can tell you she is a well-known scholar of adult learning. So let's get started. As a refresher, let's go back and look at this slide on the 1, 2, 3 project. You can see that conducting interviews is part of step 2, fieldwork, data collection, and analysis. There is no deliverable for step 2, rather you will work independently. Nevertheless, it's important to prepare and make sure everyone is on the right path to be successful. Based on the timeline of the semester, you should plan to do your interviews in late March. The requirement is to do at least one qualitative interview. This could be done over the phone or using Zoom or in person or some other method. I suggest 2 or maybe 3 interviews would be ideal. Any more than 3 may be too much data to fit into the scope of this project and the timeline of the semester. So let's think about a qualitative interview. We talk about it being conversational and keeping the person talking. So is it an interview or is it a conversation? Well, interviews are done with a research purpose, right? They are systematic and intentional. We plan them. We think ahead of time about the questions we might need to ask or the kinds of information we might be looking for. However, in practice, they might feel very conversational. Miriam and Tisdale describe the different types of qualitative interviews using structure, from one that is highly structured to one that is semi-structured, and then to one that is unstructured. As you will read in their chapter, the unstructured or open-ended interview, OEI, is used primarily in ethnography to do participant observation or case study. For the 1, 2, 3 project, it's a given that you will be conducting an unstructured, open-ended interview because this is the kind of interview best suited to our research endeavor. The OEI is a singular event. It's unstructured because it really flows in unexpected ways depending on the participant and their answers to your questions. So as I've hinted at, the OEI or open-ended interview or unstructured interview is one that aligns to the method and the research questions and the purpose of the 1, 2, 3 project. You've heard the 1, 2, 3 project described as a mini case study, and that we will be using ethnographic techniques to study an adult literacy practice, and we'll be using a sociocultural lens. So let's break all of that down a little bit. Because of the limited amount of time we have in one semester, many parts of the 1, 2, 3 project are just being given to you, right? Like right now, I'm telling you, you will do this kind of an interview. And the reason for that is we have a limited amount of time, and we really want everyone to get something out of this process, and it just can't be accomplished in this amount of time without some things being given. So our focus is on a single literacy practice. So that would be our case, right? This one case of this one concrete literacy practice. And it's mini because we're doing just a limited scope of interviews and other forms of data collection around that one practice. It's also a given, we've talked about this previously, that we're using the sociocultural lens. We're spending the whole semester talking about the sociocultural lens, right? And its purpose for that and how we can learn about adult literacy through this lens. So it's a given, the sociocultural lens. And when studying people's experiences with these literacy practices, we need to talk to them. So this lends itself to the practice of doing the interviewing. And then because of the nature of our questions about literacy practices, the best kind of interview for us to use is the OEI, or unstructured interview. So that's just kind of knitting all of those things together, what we say aligning everything, our method and our research purpose and our research questions, so it all flows together. I wanted to briefly mention the OEI guide. This is a document you'll find in the module this week. You may or may not find it helpful. You may want to take it and rearrange it and make it your own. Please do that. It lists the kind of information and the kind of materials you will need to start pulling together in preparation for your interviews. You will need to be able to explain to your interviewees a little bit about your project and what you're studying without getting too much in the weeds, but yet respecting their intelligence, right? And that takes a little bit of practice. You'll need to explain to them that this is a graduate school project and that their information will be kept confidential, that the study is not going to be published or shared beyond the class. And there are some other documents that go with the OEI guide that will help you and can give you some verbiage for this. And you know, how to get started and the different kinds of question starters, or I call them question stems, you will need to break the ice, get people talking. We can't walk up and say, tell me about your experience with this literacy practice. We need to come at it like obliquely, right? Like, tell me about your role at the such and such office, or what kinds of things you do every day. You know, we have to work our way into getting the person to start talking about, oh yes, so yeah, that training document or whatever your focus text is. Yeah, when I do that, you know, I do this or I do that, or they start to get more candid about it. But it takes a bit to get to that point, and it takes practice. The unstructured OEI is probably one of the most difficult to do because it isn't just coming from a script, and you'll need to know how to keep the person on track, how to get more information. If it's something you don't need, how to steer them back to, you know, what you do want to hear, and how to ask in a way that gets them to just open up and talk about their experience rather than kind of answering scripted questions. Anyway, the OEI guide, and there are some other documents in the project module, are just there to help you pull things together for the interview. This wraps up the weekly mini lecture, our assignment this week. Just trying to keep it creative and engaging. We're going to use a Google application called Jamboard that you may be familiar with, and it's a the OEI Jamboard. It's also your time to start gathering materials and information for the interviews, thinking about who to interview, and as we mentioned, end of March is kind of the targeted time frame for doing the interviews. And then most importantly this week, you're going to submit your project step 1B participants.